And now, without further ado, we're going to hear from our man of the hour, Doug Euper. And again, please support him as a member of the school board. Doug.
Thank you, Greg. Thanks, Patrick, and thank you, Keith, and Marnie, and David, and Naranci. The endorsements from you mean more to me than any endorsement from a leader of a political party or anybody else. I've never run for politics. I think that's already been mentioned, and I'm learning. I wanted to do it and go all in. Trying this online, a Zoom town hall was something I've been thinking about, and I thought, you've got to try. There's no shame in losing, but as long as you do your best, and as we all tell our kids. And so here I am. And school board is supposed to be a nonpartisan. That's one of the reasons why I wasn't too afraid to try it, because I don't want to get involved with the major fighting that we hear going on. I talk to my friends of all political backgrounds, and we agree when it comes to our kids and it comes to our schools on nearly everything. And my discussions with many of you are the reason why I ran. A couple of things about me is, I live here in Irvine. I'm a single dad, 2 wonderful boys, Calvin and Casey. They both go to University High School. And a couple of things that got me to run was probably the same reason that I got involved with Little League board. I thought, I have some background in this. I've done this before. If I don't do this, who will? People that have experience at something don't step up to try, then who will? And the fact that I'm a teacher, and I love teaching, and you see I've got a few of my friends that are teachers here. I absolutely love it. It's allowed me to spend time with my kids. It's made me a better person. And develop as a person, and want to be a role model to my students. And this has been a tough year for everybody, especially for our kids. It's been tough on adults. It's been especially tough on our kids. And again, I thought, if I don't step up and do this, then who will? Well, so far the people that are running the school board in Irvine, as good as their intentions are, I don't think have done a very good job during this crisis. The one event that really got me to run, and I've talked about this with a few people, was Irvine Unified School District eliminated letter grades for the spring. And to me, it came out of nowhere. I was stunned. More importantly, my son was stunned. And he had started high school off with a tough first semester, his freshman year, and he'd worked very hard to get his grades up. And I'm not saying this because I think it's an exception. I think he's the rule. He had really started to increase his grades, improve his grades, and to try to get into a college. And so it was, I guess, just imagine being a kid and your whole world being turned upside down. And then all of a sudden, on top of it, what you've been working so hard for, what do kids do with most of their day? They go to school and they hang out with their friends. And then the letter grades have been taken away from you. So my son lost a lot of sleep. And then finally I just said, you've got to let it go, because there's nothing you can do. But if you believe in something strong enough, if you're upset, then you've got to try to do something about it or let it go. So I decided to run for school board because I figured there was a lot of houses like mine. Now, in short, what they did was impose something called grading for equity. It's an idea that's been around for years. And anybody within education knows there's, from time to time, somebody mentions about revamping grades. And letter grades, as imperfect as they are, I think work quite well. They let students know when they're doing things right and to keep it up. If their grades are low, it tells them that I need to change what I'm doing. And there's always a teacher there to help them. And the grade is a contract between the teacher and the student. This was very upsetting because it was taken out of the hands of the students, their families, and the teachers. And it's not right. And so grading for equody, and in Irvine Unified School District's announcement to all of the parents that they were doing this, they mentioned a guy who had written a book last year, and the gentleman who had written the book wrote it years ago. It had nothing to do with COVID-19. It had nothing to do with the lockdown. His desire to get rid of letter grades and for all students to get the same grade had nothing to do with it. And I just thought this is wrong. And this is what people don't like about politics, is that sometimes things get snuck in and presented as one thing when they're actually something else. But I'll leave the grade part alone because I felt like it was a larger problem with politics entering into our classrooms, with agendas being pushed. There's the relationship and between teacher and student, and what happens in the classroom belongs between those two parties. And I think it's a job of the school board to protect students and the teachers from outside interests and allow teachers to do what they do. I don't feel like they should be pushing the interests of outside groups. I'd like to see interest from Sacramento and Washington, D.C., and politicians keep their hands off of our kids and out of our classrooms. I believe I read this somewhere that education should be about the disinterested pursuit of knowledge. And it resonated with me enough that I've never forgotten it. And it helped me as a teacher as well. That what we're doing is helping our students learn how to learn. What they do with that knowledge is up to them. But we have to teach them to be able to analyze, to think. Oftentimes we hear students say, well, why am I learning this? This will never help me in life. Maybe in algebra or something like that. And my answer to my own kids is you're learning how to learn across many disciplines, and it's going to help you. And you're learning from different teachers with different personalities, and this also will help you. I would like to see our schools do that. Now, Irvine Unified School District, one of the best school districts in the county, if not the state. That's not guaranteed to continue if we don't have good leadership. I worry that we are moving away from excellence and moving towards mediocrity. And I would like to be a part, of trying to make sure that we maintain, academic excellence, as it says on the, on my lawn boards there. We already have excellence in music. We have excellence in the arts. I see a big disconnect between our athletics and our academics. And I think it's a shame, and I think it's unnecessary. There's a huge gap between what people view athletics in Irvine and academics, and it doesn't make any sense. We lose many students who go to other school districts or private schools, and with them goes money for funding that we need in our schools. One of the things that I would like to see happen within Irvine to improve the athletics is whenever there is an opening for a head coach, for them to advertise a position as coming with possibly a teaching position. Now, that's not always, it's not always possible to do, but sometimes a teaching position opens up a year or 2 years later. Sometimes you can get that coach on campus as a substitute teacher. I know Patrick and I both got into teaching and coaching that way because Huntington Beach High School guaranteed that we would substitute there on campus every day. As young substitute teachers and coaches, we got to have relationships with our students. They got to see us in the classroom and respect us. And it's important. The kids that play sports, I think there's about 30% of all students on high school campuses play a sport. They'll spend 3 or 4 hours a day with those coaches. Those coaches have the ability to make a huge impact, positively or negatively. And I think it's a responsibility the school board and the school district superintendent has to the families to do their due diligence. If you advertise every opening as possibly coming with a teaching position, you will attract the best talent in all of Orange County, and you get a chance to interview them. And if you can't get them on right then, you can get them in later. This is very important to our students. There was a story recently in the Orange County Register about a coach that had been hired 3 times by University High School and since he's under investigation for child molestation, and possibly had been let go at other high schools in the area in between. This is unacceptable. And I haven't heard an apology, haven't heard anything from the school board about this. It's as if it didn't happen, but the parents talk about it. This is awful. It can be done better. It can be improved. As far as, there's some other areas I get asked questions about budgetary things, and there's a lot that I have to learn about the budgetary business of a school board. I don't know everything. I look forward to getting an opportunity to speak with the other board members and share ideas. And even if I disagree with some of the things they've done, have a dialogue with them. But some of the things that I've noticed as a teacher where there's spending that goes on that can be curtailed is I find that there's more and more spending, more and more money going to the district office and the district itself. And that's coming away from the school sites. Textbooks. I can't for the life of me figure out in this day and age why our students have a large book that costs a lot of money for every single class. And in some cases now, they're given 2 books. They can keep 1 book at school in their locker and 1 book at home. It's a huge amount of money for something that we now have access to online. One of maybe the benefits that will come out of COVID with is the schools now have purchased computers for every student. There's great ancillary materials and help. And that's an area where we could save a ton of money. There's lots of in-services that teachers have to go to as well. I find many of them have little benefit. And whenever they take us out of our classroom, they have to pay subs to go in. They have to pay the speakers sometimes and outside agencies to come in. And many of them have agendas. They don't come in and talk to us about how to inspire our students. And I think that's another area where I'd like to come in and be a voice for that. As far as getting back to school, this is the hardest thing. When do we come back? How do we come back? How do we know it's safe? And the safety of the students and the teachers is a primary concern, and the families of the students as well. And there's no easy answer. I'm not going to act like there is. I will say this, there are many schools and many districts in other states that have been back full-time for months. I'd like to believe that we've hopefully called those schools to find out what did you do, what worked well for you, what didn't work, and find out. Because I think there's a lot there. We do need to get our kids back on campus full-time. Right now, Irvine's doing a hybrid method, and a lot of districts are. And I understand the thought behind it, and I considered it. I don't think it works. I don't think it works. I've talked to my students, and I don't think it makes anybody safer. The teachers are still exposed, and the students are still exposed. And we know much more now than we did back in the spring, that there are people who can't go back on campus because of health conditions that should be honored, that there are kids who have family members that should be respected as well. There's people that just aren't comfortable. But I think there are people that are ready to go back, students and teachers that are ready to go back full time and get a part of their life back. And those that are ready to go and are able to go, if we can get them back on campus and allow distance learning for those who aren't ready, we can then begin to pave the way to get everybody back on campus a little at a time. I think once they see that people are back on campus and that the health crisis is being managed and is under control, you'll begin to have people that were uncomfortable looking and going, I think I'm ready to go back now. It's going to be very hard to get back. And if we don't try, or at least come up with ideas, then I think we've failed our students again. And that's really the key to it is having people get in and discuss ideas of how do we get back. There's lots of reasons why we shouldn't go back or can't go back that we keep hearing about. I don't think we're hearing enough about, how we can get back safely for the sake of our kids who are already giving up a year, very important year of their lives. I just want to add a couple of other things. I know I had some people come and say some really amazing things about me, and and I've had a lot of support from people, text messages, and I was very afraid when I signed up that it would be a negative experience, and it hasn't been. It's been very positive, win or lose. But the thing when you grow up playing baseball is you're not supposed to talk about yourself. And as I found in politics, you're supposed to promote yourself. And that's what I tried to do tonight. I own one suit and I'm wearing it now. I wore it last week for the IUSD candidates Zoom. I wore it for all the photos that have been taken. But I will do whatever it takes. And I have had to overcome a lot. I was not a very good student. I had terrible habits. And I've tried to appeal and help students that were like me. I wasn't the best baseball player, but I really wanted to be great at it. And I feel like I did find a way to achieve to a certain extent. When I started teaching, I don't think I was a very good teacher. And I learned by watching other teachers. I learned, by watching Greg Shaded, down the 2 doors down from me and asking him questions. You don't get to learn something until you do it. There's no book that teaches you how to do your job till you're actually doing your job. And yeah, I was nervous about doing this, but I've been nervous about a lot of things. And I think something we always share with our own children is we regret the things that we didn't try more than the things that we tried. So I will try. And I'll talk to anybody who will listen. I've walked on the street putting signs up and spent 20 minutes talking to one person. I was advised by a political advisor, somebody who knows what they're doing, who told me, don't talk for a long time to one person. They're either going to vote for you or they're not. You'll know right away. But I can't help it. I love to discuss things and find out what people are thinking. And I'll do that as your school board member. I will put everything I've got into improving it for our kids, making sure that things that work well continue to work well, making sure to improve the things that need to be improved. And as I said, a lot of the things I'm saying I've come from conversations with you, with all of you. And I think that's what somebody who serves on the school board is you're a voice for the people that you would represent in your area. And these are important times. I appreciate you coming tonight and doing this and listening to me. And please spread the word. Please spread the word to others to get this done. I would also say, if you know anybody I'm running in zone 3, if you know anybody in zone 5, ask them to vote for and support Dimitra Arvantidis. She's running against the incumbent, and it would make a major change for our school board if she gets elected, and if I get elected as well. Right now, one of the people I'm running against was endorsed by the entire board. And I can't think of a more dangerous thing than to have 5 people who agree with each other sitting around making decisions. There needs to be, some dissent. There needs to be people standing up, maybe for a point of view that isn't popular, but needs to be brought up. But like I said, if you know somebody in zone 5, please endorse Dimitra as well. And we'll see what we can do. She and I are both new. We've talked quite a bit. We think we can get this done. We think it's time. I think there's a lot of people in a crisis, people pay attention. I notice when times are good, my students don't pay attention in economics nearly as much as they do during a recession. When their families are struggling, when things are difficult at home, they really want to know. And I think with what's going on right now and what's happening to our schools, there are a lot of people that are hopefully asking questions as to what is going on there. And maybe it's time for a change. And I hope to be a part of that change. And I appreciate your support. I wanted this to be like a town hall, because I've seen the town halls on TV where there's people sitting around and asking questions. So I do want to open this up to questions. I think the best way to do it, I was going to have people type it into the chat, but if anybody has any questions on policy or anything else, I would love to hear you ask. You can unmute yourself and simply ask the question. I'll check the chat box too. Well, people can email me. I've emailed some questions, and it's been very exciting. I've gotten phone calls from the flyers I've sent out and talked to people on the phone. And this has absolutely been an amazing experience. And again, I hope I get on that board. If I don't, then I'm going to plant some seeds with my students and with the kids in our area to take some ownership of their community and to step up and run. So if there's nothing else, then we can end this Zoom. But thank you once again, and I won't let you down. I can promise you that. All right. Thank you, guys. Have a good night. I'm Doug Euper, and I approve this message.